working with public, private, as well as non-profit health-based organizations. He is an infection prevention and control practitioner and has competencies including project management, capacity building, policy formulation, curriculum development, and research. Dr. Adeniyi served as the program coordinator for the pilot of the CDC ICANN Environmental Cleaning Improvement Toolkit that we are partaking of now at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, Lagos, Nigeria. His work on environmental cleaning and the toolkit pilot has led to presentations on multiple platforms, such as the ICANN Conference, Infection Control Society of Southern Africa, ICSA, United States WASH in Healthcare Community of Practice, among others. He currently serves as an IPC consultant to the Center for Infection Control and Patient Safety, which we refer to as CCAPS, and he's the training coordinator at the Infection Control Africa Network, West African Regional Hub. So it is with great pleasure I welcome Dr. Damilola Adeniyi to take us through the first session on the environmental cleaning toolkit. Thank you, and over.
Thank you very much, Dr. John, for your very generous introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining from. The world has now become a global village. It's good to see familiar faces here as we speak about the environmental cleaning toolkit. Can you confirm, please, if you can see my screen and if you can hear me clearly?
Yes, Dr. Dami, we can see you and we can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you. Please just give me a second. Let me put this on the slideshow. Okay. Please also confirm if we can see this on the slideshow.
Yeah, it's on slideshow.
Okay, great. Okay, so once again, good day to everyone. It's interesting. I had the opportunity to present on the toolkit. I think it was 2 years ago during towards the end of the pilot of this project within the Lagos University General Hospital. And 2 years after, I think we have some interesting perspectives and a lot of lessons learned. Dr. Osuagwu presented the second part, which is the core LUTH experience. So what I'll do is to briefly take us through the environmental cleaning toolkit, which is basically a tool that allows for incremental improvements in environmental cleaning programs. And this is the outline we'll be using for today. I'll give a background on the toolkit. We look at the 5-step approach, and then I'll talk about the 5 steps, which include prepare for action, conducting a baseline assessment, preparing an action plan, a prioritized action plan, and then implementing program improvements, and lastly, how to evaluate or sustain the impact of the improvements. As a form of some background, 2019 was when the best practices for environmental cleaning in healthcare facilities in resource-limited settings was developed by the International Infection Control Program of the US CDC. And that has become a Bible of some sort when it comes to environmental cleaning. And many other documents have been derived from this. The toolkit, which we're speaking about, is actually a sister document that was developed as a means for implementing, for assessing and then implementing improvements in environmental cleaning. Now, we know that environmental cleaning is one of the standard precautions, and the recent research is beginning to show us that environmental cleaning is even more important than we initially thought. When people speak about IPC, the first thing that comes to a lot of non-IPC professional minds is hand hygiene, because there's a lot of we have a lot of publications around hand hygiene, and there's a lot of noise around hand hygiene. But we realize now, if you look at recent research, you see that environmental cleaning, which is basically cleaning and disinfection, of patient care areas, surfaces, floors, and the likes, is as important has, hand hygiene. And so the US CDC developed a toolkit, particularly for resource limited settings, LMICs, that allows them to assess their facility in the light of, cleaning programs, and then um, also to implement improvements in a stepwise fashion. And LUTH happens to be the first um, organization where LUTH and also another facility in Vietnam simultaneously where this toolkit was actually piloted. The purpose of the toolkit was basically threefold. First, to provide a standardized process for assessing environmental cleaning programs against the defined best practices. And so as far as environmental cleaning is concerned, there are standards, and the days of just cleaning as though you're cleaning any other space, those days are gone. And so the toolkit allows for a comparison, between what obtains within a facility and what is considered to be the standard or what is considered to be best practice. And then the second purpose of the toolkit was to prioritize needed action and activities to make program improvements. And so after you have assessed what you have on ground in comparison to the best standards, the toolkit helps you to prioritize the areas where you need to focus on, the areas where you need to improve. And then lastly, to assist in systematically implementing program improvements over time. And the toolkit was able to accomplish this within Lagos University Teaching Hospital. The 5-step approach for the toolkit or for implementing best practices in environmental cleaning. These are the 5 steps, like I mentioned earlier. The first is to prepare for action, and the crux of this presentation would be to take us through how you do all these, these 5 things. I think it's a good time to mention that the toolkit is, available. It's available to any facility to make use of. If you go to the US, I think it's US CDC site, it's available. I want to think it's also available on the ICANN website. And so any facility can actually implement, the toolkit. It's easy to use. And so these are the 5 steps we'll be looking at. The first is the prepare for action. Now, one of the things that the pilot allowed us to accomplish was to compare what the document originally states based on research and a lot of consultation with what actually obtains in LMICs. And I think one of the pluses of the process was that the toolkit was actually modified to an extent, and so it is more suited to low and medium income countries now than it was at the beginning when we started. The prepare for action part, just like for most IPC programs, is very crucial, which involves having meetings with all the stakeholders. In this case, we had US CDC, we had ICANN, we had the College of Medicine, we also had LUTH, and then obtaining ethical approval. Now, while this is not a full-blown research, this is more of implementing a project. You also still need to get the approvals that are necessary. And so this process took an estimate of about 4 weeks to accomplish. And so the core aspects of preparing for action after getting the approvals and meeting with the relevant stakeholders is actually to come up with your team to constitute the project team. The pilot team in LUTH, Dr. Osuagwu, speaking more details to this, had very key stakeholders such as a representative, actually a number of representatives from the visit team, and then from nursing, from LUTH administration, from engineering, and then from the priority ward after we had identified the priority ward at the end of the prepare for action. Part of preparing for action also involves highlighting what the project objectives were, and then assigning roles based on terms of reference for the different team members. So for example, the team lead of the toolkit, also known as the toolkit champion, had certain responsibilities as stated in the toolkit. One of the modifications we had to make in this regard, I remember, was originally the toolkit required dedicated time from project team members. But one of the peculiar things we face in Nigeria and other LMICs is that it's very difficult to find team members that will be able to give you dedicated time. So you're not going to get time off your regular work. And so we had to modify some of those roles as far as the TOR is concerned for the different team members. It also includes the prepare for action also includes identifying what your risk assessment tool would be. In this context, risk assessment was done to identify a priority ward, knowing that in facilities, especially tertiary facilities, it might not be feasible to implement program improvements across board, across all departments, or across all units. Now, for those that might be listening from maybe primary care facilities or facilities that are not as huge, it might be possible to actually do a baseline assessment, which is the next step for the entire facility. But within the Lagos University Hospital, we limited ourselves to the prioritized ward, hence the need for a risk assessment. And then the facility-wide risk assessment was done. And ultimately, 2 priority wards were identified, 2 neonatal priority wards. So this just gives a bit more information. This is a picture of one of the wards, pediatric wards within the Lagos University Hospital. Like I mentioned earlier, we had representatives from nursing, from the IPC team, from administration, from engineering, and then from the priority ward. The risk assessment was done over a 3-day period within LUTH. It depends on your facility, and the criteria used for classifying the different patient care areas were probability of contamination, vulnerability of the population to infection, and then potential for exposure. So what we did was, there was a scoring system that was assigned, and ultimately the places that had the highest scores were classified as being high risk. When we're done with the risk assessment, we had about 19 high risk patient care areas. And so we had to use additional criteria, also stated in the toolkit, to narrow down to 2, even though 1 was what we were looking at initially. And so you can decide to prioritize more than 1 ward or patient care area, depending on the tools you have available. And so to summarize, prepare for action. First thing is that you assemble your project team after you've gotten all the permissions you need and approval. Then you conduct a risk assessment, and then you identify your priority ward. The second stage or second phase of implementing the toolkit is the conduction of a baseline assessment. Now, there are 2 sub aspects when it comes to doing a baseline assessment. There is what we call the basic program assessment, and then the advanced. Now, the difference between both is that you can't do an advanced program assessment. And when we say program here, we're talking about the 5 environmental cleaning program elements, which I will come to shortly. You can't do an advanced assessment if there is any deficit after you have done a basic program assessment. And so we did a basic program assessment in LUTH, and because we identified a number of gaps, there was no need to do the advanced. And from our experience, we also realized that it's pretty unlikely that you'll find facilities within LMICs who are using the toolkit for the first time that would need to do an advanced program assessment, because the basic is detailed enough, and most times you'll find deficits. And so we did a basic program assessment in LUTH. It took about 2 weeks to do this because there was no need to do the advanced. And how do you do the baseline assessment? There we have structured questionnaires already contained within the toolkit that ask questions around the 5 program elements. The first, that's environmental cleaning program elements. So we have organization, we have policies and procedure, we have staffing and training, we have infrastructure and supplies, and then we have monitoring, feedback, and audits. In other words, in facilities where environmental cleaning best practices are in place, these elements must be present, organizational elements, and that talks about having a clear-cut organogram when it comes to environmental cleaning, having supervisors, a reporting system, and administrative support, and communication is very key. There should be clear-cut policies. We'll speak about this. One of the things we did, but one of the areas that we focused on in improvements was actually to develop a cleaning policy for the hospital, and then SOPs for the neonatal wards. And then staffing and training is structured staffing and training, development of curriculum, and then executing the first batch of training and subsequent ones. Of course, infrastructure and supplies, being clear about what the standard products are when it comes to environmental cleaning, and then the standard supplies, and then monitoring, feedback, and audits, which layers upon every other element. And so we did a baseline assessment. It was about 2 weeks, and then we identified areas where the hospital had deficits when it comes to environmental cleaning. The third part of the toolkit is to develop an action plan, and of course, the action plan is based on the areas that you identify where there are deficits. And so the develop action plan portion of the toolkit helps you to record program deficits from the assessment that you have done, and then to prioritize those program improvements. Now, this is actually a very crucial part of the process of using the toolkit. There is a part of the toolkit called the recommended action guide that's based on, reviewing several documents and past research that tries to prioritize, actions. For example, there is no need to focus on monitoring feedback and things like audit of environmental cleaning if you don't have the infrastructure in place. The best way to understand that, infrastructure, whether it's with respect to cleaning supplies or equipment. And you can't even talk about monitoring and feedback if organization is not in place. So there has to be a clear-cut supervisory structure. There has to be a clear-cut reporting system before you can talk about monitoring. And so it prioritizes the actions, recommended action, based on the deficit present. Now, in addition to that recommended action guide, the peculiarity of the facility where you belong is also a key aspect. And so the toolkit encourages, the team to prioritize aspects of improvement that are feasible within the facility. And so feasibility, you begin to consider things like time frame. So if you say, okay, we want to focus on infrastructure, one aspect of infrastructure, for example, based on the questions, structured questions, and you realize that to get that done will take a year or 6 months, then you are, discouraged from going in that direction. And so there has to be a balance between what the recommended action guide states in the toolkit and then what is feasible within the facility. And so an action plan was developed based on the program deficits. Okay, I think there is a bit of a delay with my system. Can you please confirm what can you see on your screen?
You can see the slide that says we developed an action plan with a picture to the right of it.
Okay, all right, great. So it was just a slight delay. And so, like I said earlier, was a balance of using the recommended action guide and what we perceive to be feasible within the hospital. Developing an action plan took about a week or two, which is in keeping with what the toolkit specifies. I think I should also add, in developing a prioritized action plan, it's important to state specific actions to be taken, people responsible, the target due date, the resources that are needed. Also, that's not on this slide, and then the completion date. The fourth, and the longest part of the project is actually implementing program improvements. Now, this takes roughly 3 months or 4 months, depending on your setting. And so, based on the identified gaps, program gaps, there are specified improvements that are highlighted within the toolkit. So I'll give an example. Under policy and procedure, remember the 5 elements that I mentioned of environmental cleaning. There are specific questions for each element to ascertain whether they are present within the facility. And so under policy and procedure, for example, there was a question around whether there is a cleaning policy, to which the answer was no. And so we had to develop a cleaning policy. And so the idea of implementing program improvements is, after you have prioritized, you can decide that we're going to prioritize maybe 3 areas or 4 or 5. Usually the toolkit encourages you don't prioritize more than 5 so that you don't have too much within your first cycle. Then you begin to implement what is needed based on the specific actions that have been stated in the action plan. Within Lagos University Teaching Hospital, cleaning policy was developed, SOPs were also developed, and then a training curriculum was developed, a structured training curriculum, which had the following modules, as you can see: the importance of cleaning staff, personal hygiene and hand hygiene, use of PPEs, cleaning techniques, which we broke into 2 parts. The second part includes waste handling and then monitoring and assessment of cleaning. I think it's important to also say that it's very important to contextualize the toolkit, and the toolkit allows for a lot of contextualization. So, for example, in developing the training modules, there are supporting documents that suggest these are the things that should be within the training module for cleaners if you don't have one in your facility. But we took the liberty to introduce this first module, which is the importance of the cleaning staff, because we identified that things such as morale and a sense of importance within the healthcare system was something that was lacking within the facility. And so there's liberty to contextualize based on your facility. Because during the pilot, we had about 100 staff trained, but we've gone even beyond that during the sustainability phase. So these are some of the program improvements that were implemented, and it took about 4 months to do this. The last part, the final part of the toolkit implementation is the evaluation part, to evaluate your impact and to sustain. And this also, based on the toolkit, takes about 3 months, and 3 months because during your evaluation of your impact, you are required to compile all the necessary outputs, reports, and then present them to the facility. So we had meetings with administration to say, this is what we've done. And then there is a 3-month period that is also encouraged after the implementation of those improvements that allows you to follow up and to monitor if those improvements have been sustained. And so in evaluating the impact of the toolkit, it's important that there's some form of monitoring of the outputs that have been stated in the action plan to see whether they've been accomplished. It also allows for modification sometimes if some things are not being accomplished. And then the toolkit is also a document that allows for iteration, which means that you can restart the cycle, repeat the toolkit process, and then focus on other areas where you did not previously prioritize in your initial cycle. And so that in a nutshell is how the toolkit works within the facility. This slide just shows us the 5 steps I've talked about, to give you a better view of the different components of the 5-step implementation of the toolkit, environmental cleaning toolkit. And this is a work plan or a Gantt chart that shows how it was implemented in those over about 8 to 9 months period, and the details of the different steps. Thank you very much. I'm happy to take your questions after the second presentation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Damilola. Please, can we show him our reactions? It was very pivotal to the development of this toolkit. And we can see the experience with which we used to walk us through the 5-step approach in implementing the toolkit. Let me confirm, but we'll please ask you to keep your questions and comments till after the second presentation from Dr. Chioma Osuagwu. So permit me at this point to introduce Dr. Chioma Osuagwu. She's my sister from before. We have a long history together. She's a consultant clinical microbiologist by excellence, works at Lagos University Teaching Hospital. Not only works there, she's also the current head of the Department of Medical Microbiology and Parasitology. Dr. Osuagwu is an IPC expert and is one of the midwives who gave birth to the environmental cleaning toolkit that we are discussing today. She's also a good teacher and a lecturer at the same institution. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Chioma Osuagwu. Over. Dr. Osuagwu, can you unmute?
Okay. Thank you, June, for the introduction. It was really, I don't know how to say it again, but thank you. So I'm going to, Dr. Damilola has talked about almost everything, but I'm going to try and talk about our experience in LUTH, though the previous speaker has said almost everything. We use them ICANN CDC best practices toolkit to start our cleaning in the Lagos University Teaching Hospital to improve facility. So for those of you that don't know where we are, this is Lagos, Nigeria, and Nigeria is in Africa, and this is Lagos. This is the hospital. Though it is bigger than this, but this is the front view, and you can see it's very beautiful. It's an 800-bedded tertiary teaching hospital, and they have about 2,500 admissions per year. And it serves the population around Lagos and almost all Nigeria, because it's a referral center for most of the infections and other diseases in Nigeria. So we are a very important facility when it comes to Nigeria. So like Dami has said, we prepare for action. We use the toolkit to do our steps on how we are going to do the cleaning. And this cleaning process is continuous improvement. It uses a cycle that you do the first step. When you complete it, you move higher until you become perfect. I don't know if that one will ever happen. So you continue improving. The set of priority, you move. The set of priority, you move. So we prepare for action by having stakeholders meeting in February 2021. And in this stakeholders meeting, we invited people from all the departments, even the management, even NCDs, yes. Then we got ethical approval. And we discussed about the projects. We used the toolkit as our guideline. We discussed about the training and everything, developed terms of references, and how we are going to do the risk assessment. So for the risk assessment, we have to use it and identify the priority ward. Where are we going to start? LUTH is very big. We cannot start the whole hospital at the same time. So we then needed to determine the priority ward. And in this decision that we had to take, we had to consider the probability of contamination of that patient care area. Then the vulnerability of the patients in that area. So were they susceptible, were they less susceptible? And we also had to consider the potential for exposure. So high-risk surfaces had priority over low-touch surfaces. High-touch surfaces, low-touch surfaces. So at the end of the day, we compiled and analyzed our risk assessment, and we decided that neonatal wards, that's we call them NAU, newborns from the hospital, as they say in the NAU, D1 are from the outborn. So we decided that they were the priority one that needed cleaning. So we also did a baseline assessment on the hospital. So do we have the organization? Do we have organogram for cleaning? Do you have SOPs? Are there the line of communication, disaster management supervision? Do we have the infrastructures and supplies for cleaning? Do we have the adequate staffing? Are there policies and procedures which were non-existent as at the time we were doing all this risk assessment? So was there for monitoring and feedback? We don't even have a good cleaning structure. So what are we monitoring? The training that we were doing, we are just once in a while, we do training based on maybe if there's an outbreak, we train the hospital staff. So there was nothing organized about our cleaning. So we now, based on what we found out, decided to develop action plan. So when we now developed action, do we want to do? What is achievable? Toolkit has a guideline for doing all these things. it makes that toolkit made life easy for us. So we decided what we are going to do based on what we can do, what is achievable within the time we set out for ourselves, which was 3 months. And we now had meetings again and prioritized what we wanted to do and documented it. We had to put, what do we want to do? We want to develop SOPs for cleaning. Who is responsible for it? When will it be due? And when do you want it to be completed? So we put all those things down and now went to work. So we developed the cleaning policy, and we developed the SOPs, and we now did the trainings. The trainings were done in batches. Both the staff, cleaning staff, and their supervisors were trained. And this training also involved both hands-on and role-plays because of the cadre of the people we were working with at the literacy level. So we had to really step down on English and use sometimes even native language to talk to them the way they will understand. And the training model included the importance of environmental cleaning staff. We had to tell them that they were very, very important in the hospital, and without them, the hospital will keep having healthcare-associated infections, and a good surgeon that does a good work, the patient can be killed by dirty environment. So that if they don't do their work, the hospital will not function. So we had to make them know that they were very, very important, and they really helped. They felt good. So we taught them hand hygiene and personal hygiene and use of personal protective equipment. Then we now went to teach them the cleaning itself, the basic cleaning techniques, cleaning equipment, how to handle waste. Then we also told them about monitoring and evaluation. But most of the monitoring and evaluation, we told them that they were going to be monitored and how they were going to monitor, but we emphasized the monitoring and evaluation for their supervisors. So we trained about 100 cleaning staff in the pilot study, the first batch and the second batch. And we use all teaching methods that we can: videos, PowerPoint slides, role plays, posters, and you can see the picture. It was well attended. Some of the people in the non-priority ward, we are wondering why they were excluded from the training. But we did not just train the cleaners in the priority wards, we trained all the cleaners in the pediatrics ward because they keep rotating them, they keep changing them. So if you trained only the ones in the priority ward, the next month they may move them and all our efforts will be wasted. So we decided to train all of them. So before we started the training, we did the post-test, a pre-test. And after that, we did a post-test, and you could see the difference there was really knowledge transfer. They acquired knowledge, and even the surveys that we did, they were really happy that we were trained, and all of them agreed that they learned something. So after the training, a meeting was held with the hospital management. The SOPs and policies were presented, and the equipment for the training was donated to the pediatrics neonatal wards. The job aids were also given to them. But something happened. The cleaners, there's a high turnover of cleaners. So the hospital cleaners were disengaged for contract cleaners. And we had to start again. And that's the sustainability phase of the toolkit. We had to start with advocacy to the management. We had to talk to the external cleaning company so that they will agree to adopt our policy and agree for us to train them and their staff. And we had to start retraining both the ones we have trained before and the new ones that we are employed, or the new contract cleaners, and even some of their supervisors were also trained, and even some of the supervisors from the previous training still had to be retrained. And this was now done in batches, in 4 batches, because we had to do them in small groups so that it will not interfere with their routine cleaning. So they usually clean in the morning and in the evenings. So the training will normally start after they are cleaning in the morning and before they start cleaning in the evening. And it was usually for the people that we are on off duty, because there's a way they do it. They do it by shift. So the ones that are not on duty will be trained, while the ones on duty will wait for. So we had to organize with their supervisors and their contractors to organize them in such a way that their work will not be affected. And in this one, a total of 63 staff were trained in local dialect and pidgin English. And we also used the slides, posters, and practical demonstration. We even used invisible markers to mark places. I asked them to clean. That's, we mark the places when they were not around, and they will clean. After, we go and shine our UV torch to see if they were properly cleaned, and they were very impressed with that. With that aspect, because if you ask them, did you clean here? They say yes. We shine your torch, and they will see that they didn't clean it well, and they will keep quiet and know that they will have to clean it better.
Hello, Dr. Chioma, have we lost you? The one whose network has fluctuated.
It's the same here too.
Some of them that were not able to understand when it was PowerPoint, by the time the role play and the demonstrations were done, they understood. And after, because of the way we motivated them and told them that they were very enthusiastic about doing their work, and we also learned that collaboration, and we also taught them that they had to collaborate with all the healthcare workers, especially the nurses, to ensure that their work is properly carried. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Osuagwu. Please, can we show our reactions? So we thank Dr. Chioma Osuagwu and Dr. Damilola Adeniyi for these wonderful presentations. What struck me when they were presenting, there's this adage we have in Nigeria that when they say better soup, na money kill am. This one is even more than better soup, money kill am. Now, everybody's hand has to cook the soup. It's not just providing the money, it cuts across very clearly. You can imagine cleaning implementing this cleaning program took them about 9 months from planning to pilot to implementation. That's a lot. So when you say a clean hospital, you know that a lot of work has actually gone into it. And hospitals are one place that it takes extra effort to put clean. So at this point, I would like to ask, if there are questions, you can put your questions in the chat, or you can raise your hands for recognition. So while you're waiting for that, I don't know, Dr. Dami, will you take us through how that risk assessment was done? I think it's something that a lot of us would like to have a lot of more information on, because it's a very important part. Most of us, at least a couple of us, work at tertiary facilities or secondary facilities. And for such a project, because of the resources that you require, I think we can all agree that it's not something that might be feasible for you to do on a large scale. So I don't know if you can put us through how you do or conduct the risk assessment. So, and I can see your hand from Kenny to that. So please, Dr. Dami.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. John. Thank you, Dr. Thank you, Dr. Osuagwu, for your presentation. The risk assessment, like I mentioned earlier, there is, which is part of the prepare for action part, there is a recommended tool by the toolkit. If I remember clearly, it was adopted from, I think it's maybe from an Australian healthcare facility, something that was done somewhere in Australia. Give me a second, I just want to share. Okay, so I don't have the details in the slide. So what we did was that document classifies whatever facility you want to assess based on probability of contamination, vulnerability of population, and then potential for exposure. So for example, probability of contamination, there are 3 classifications for that, and there is a score assigned to it. And so there are certain specific criteria for you to say this place is high, or to say it's medium, or to say it's low. For example, if you are assessing a place like the accident and emergency, or you're assessing a place like the labor ward, the details say something like the chance of coming in contact with blood, of the patient and all of that is, almost absolute and stuff like that. So the idea is, depending on the patient care area, some places are least likely, or should I say healthcare workers, patients themselves, or even visitors are less likely to come in contact with body fluids and patients, blood in certain patient care areas in comparison to other places. And so you classify based on that. The highest score goes to the place that has, high risk for probability of contamination. And then you have medium, and then you have low. Vulnerability of population, that particular tool divides it into 2. There is, those that are highly vulnerable and those that are not vulnerable. And there's also a scoring for that, 2 different scores. An example is the neonatal population. Neonatal population happens to be vulnerable, or if you have a patient care area where the patients are immunosuppressed, for example, they are also more vulnerable. So while the first criteria looks at how likely you are to come in contact with body fluids or patient's blood, the second criteria looks at the people, the population, the patient population within that space. How vulnerable are they to infection? Now, the potential for exposure criteria was a bit controversial, and that's part of the benefit of doing a pilot for something like the toolkit. In the feedback that we gave them, the potential for exposure part speaks about high touch versus low touch, surfaces. But one of the things we found out was it's difficult for you to have a patient care area where you don't have high touch surfaces. So literally every patient care area has high touch surfaces. It's only administrative spaces that don't have high touch surfaces. So that's one of the feedback we gave to the team in Atlanta about, the experience of implementing this. So I think what is important is the risk assessment tool is not cast in stone. This was what was recommended, but there are other tools that one can use, for risk assessment. And I think I should also state that the essence of this risk assessment was to prioritize, the ward where you would carry out your intervention. And so this is not the same kind of risk assessment if you want, to do, what do you call it now? Maybe you want to do a full-fledged infection control program or intervention. This one is just to identify which part of this facility do we want to focus on, especially for tertiary or secondary facilities. And that goes to say that in some facilities, you may not even need to do a risk assessment at the prepare for action phase. You can decide to do a baseline assessment for the entire facility. If it's a small facility, maybe like a primary care, facility. So that's it basically. I hope that answers your question. I'm happy to make further clarification if there's any.
Yes, you clarified a lot of the points. So it only comes in if you cannot go facility-wide at inception, but if you can, then there's no need to do a risk assessment. You are taking up all the wards and every unit at the same time. Thank you very much, Dr. Damilola, for that explanation. I can see some few hands up and a question in the chat. So I think I'll go from who came first. Kemi Tuta, you can speak, you have the floor. Try and make it brief.
All right, good afternoon. Thank you for the presentation, Dr. Dami and Dr. Osuagwu. Chioma, please, I just want to know, for the cleaners that you trained, were you able to, I want to know if they had the knowledge of basic materials to use in terms of dilutions of their soap, the materials to use in cleaning before the training. And even after the training, were you able to affect their knowledge, or were you able to tell them the acceptable solutions, dilutions to use in cleaning areas? Thank you.
Okay. Some of them, before the training, they had an idea that you can use jig, bleach, for disinfection. But they didn't know that they needed to clean before disinfection. And also they didn't know the dilution. All they need to know, what they were doing, some of them were just pouring bleach inside water. Sometimes they pour bleach inside water, they add soap to it, and they clean. So once we ask them, have you cleaned? Say yes. They did disinfect, yes. But they mix the bleach and the soap and the water together to use and clean, which is wrong. Very wrong. So we now taught them how to dilute bleach for disinfection for various surfaces. And also told them that disinfecting without cleaning is not effective. So for them to disinfect, they had to clean. And most healthcare areas do not need disinfection. What they need is cleaning. Like disinfecting the floor is not really necessary, but proper cleaning is very important. Disinfecting windows is not important and is not even necessary. So by teaching them high touch and low touch surfaces and contaminated and non-contaminated surfaces, and how to the different kinds of cleaning and how to use the disinfectants, they were able to appreciate. One of the supervisors actually told us that they had been wasting their bleach, but what they do is to get a bottle of jig, pour inside the bucket, and they'll start using. Sometimes they don't get depending on how the quantity of bleach they have. They have so much, they waste. If they have so little, then sometimes they just take a bottle of bleach, pour it inside a drum, and start using. But when we now taught them how to do it, they were able to adapt to using it, and they saw the difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chioma, for that. I think I also remember how you mentioned development of SOPs and using pidgin and local dialects and practical sessions to teach. So let's hear what Dr. Kachi has to say. Please be brief.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, the presenters. This is a topic that I am highly or keenly interested in because I'm doing some work around the same topic. Yeah. So, but I want to find out if what kind of disinfectants do we use? Are they in the LUTH experience? Is it the jig, or are they in the crystal form or the liquid form? I just wanted to know what you guys use there. And also, in the training, I realized in the training, to what extent do you train? Like I mean topic. What exactly did you tell them? Because cleaning is quite broad. So what exactly, or to what extent did you give them the information? Did you do it like, I know hand hygiene should be there, so dilution is there, but to what extent did you, the type of cleaning, how to clean, I just wanted to have an idea of what we actually did in respect to training. That is, the last question is, did we actually have any microbiology attachment to this cleaning? Did you do anything around microbiology? Thank you. In checking the results of the surfaces, did you have anything to do with the microbiology at the end of the day?
Dr. Osuagwu.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Kachi, for the questions. In LUTH, we use for disinfectants for surfaces that are not resistant to non-chlorine resistant surfaces. We use spirit, 70% alcohol. But for chlorine resistant surfaces like plastic floors, we use bleach, we use chlorine, and we use both the powder and the 3.5% bleach. That's the jig. It depends on what the management of the contractors have. Our cleaning has been our source. So we told them how to do it using the bleach. But most of the chlorine sensitive surfaces are done by the hospital staff. So those ones, the chlorine sensitive surfaces are cleaned with 70% alcohol, like the bedrolls of those neonatal incubators and some of the neonatal things they use. Those ones are cleaned with, are disinfected, not cleaned, are disinfected with methylated spirit. Then to the extent we went on the cleaning, we taught them about how to wash hands. Where is that? I want to, so that I can be seeing it. Yes. So.
No, so it's slide number 11. Yes, that's it.
So can you see module? So we taught them importance of their cleaning and the IPC. We taught them personal hygiene and hand hygiene. So we went to town teaching them how to wash hands, because if they don't wash their hands effectively, they may not be able to clean for us effectively. So we taught them how to use personal protective equipment, and we taught them on cleaning techniques. We taught them how to clean from up down and how to clean from cleaner to dirtier area. So they will use the clean, we'll demonstrate for them which one is the cleaner area. Is it the doctor's room or the patient bedside? Which one is the cleaner area? They will just, it was a very practical thing. No textbook stuff, because the people you are talking to do not even understand. We go to the word, this side and this side, which one is cleaner now? Show us, they will show us. Those are they will now tell them how to dispose of their waste after teaching them how to clean, how to clean first before disinfecting, and how to even use the cleaning cart, how to do 2-bucket system, and how to do 3-bucket system. We taught them all those things. We taught them how to dispose of the waste, and even how to remove the waste bins and everything before they start cleaning. It was, if you use that toolkit, you won't be asking, it was well stated that when you can use toolkit and best practices in cleaning, the two books go hand in hand. You won't be looking for what to teach. So if you want to start your own cleaning program, you use a cleaning toolkit and the best practices in cleaning. It will guide you on what to teach. Then the monitoring and evaluation, we taught them about supportive supervision. Then for the assessment, like I said, we use the invisible markers and UV light to demonstrate to them about assessment and how they clean. So that before they came for the training, we marked some places, and we now told them, we asked them whether the people that cleaned that morning, whether they have cleaned. They said yes, they cleaned. So we showed them the things. I wrote my name. So I'll shine the torch and they will see my name. I say this place was not properly cleaned. This place was not cleaned at all. And they were surprised because the invisible marker did not show that everywhere was looking clean, but we were able to demonstrate to them that the place was not properly clean. Then for microbiological assessment, we did that one for their hand hygiene. When they wash their hands thoroughly, they'll place it on the blood agar. They'll place it on blood agar. Then we go and then the place before washing the hands, the place after washing hands. That's before and after. We go and incubate in a microbiology lab and show them the next day. But for the cleaning of this, since they were not doing the contamination and this and the sterilization program, the contamination is not this thing guaranteed that it only reduces the load of microbial contamination. It does not guarantee sterility. So since it was not a sterilizing exercise that we were doing, we didn't bother doing the this thing, but we were able to demonstrate to them that when they wash their hands effectively, they reduce the microbial load on their hands very well. So that's about where we taught them. But if you want our modules, maybe you discuss with Dami and Professor Gunshola. They may be able to release to you. That's the lectures that we prepared. We have slides and training materials already prepared. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Dr. Chioma. I think we'll go ahead as NC and plan organized training sessions so that all other facilities can be at par with those of you at LUTH. We can benefit from your soup. There's a question for you, Dr. Chioma, on the chat. Can you kindly explain the electronic visual assessment checklist?
Okay, that means you do that one better because we just discussed it. Is the one that developed it. It's like Google form that you go there physically, but instead of now recording on a plain sheet of on a questionnaire, you now record directly like Kobo Collect. You record directly on your phone, so that at the end of the day, it will generate the Excel sheet for you to analyze instead of you now to be typing, come back and start typing into your laptop. So okay, it's not like we have a robot that monitors for us. We go there, but the tool for entering the data.
Who knows? Maybe
it's on our phone.
Maybe Lagos has reached the level of getting robots to do assessment. If you tell us, we
still have to go there. We still have to come early to work when they are cleaning to look at what they are cleaning. We also need to come after they are finished cleaning to see, does this place look clean? Was this one done? Was this one? So as you're doing, you'll be entering it into your phone, into the app.
Okay, so it just allows you to enter in directly.
You just download the Excel sheet instead of now coming back to do the data entry.
Okay.
If I may just add,
yes, Dr.
If I may just add, Yes, so I think one of the beautiful things about implementing the toolkit is we learned a lot of lessons post-pilot that helped us to make adjustments during the sustainability phase. This electronic visual assessment, for example, is one of those lessons, and I'll mention a few others because I feel they'll be beneficial. So there's nothing sophisticated about it. When we did the first pilot and we designed monitoring checklists as visual assessment, direct performance observation, what we noticed was that when we handed over the forms, to the nurses and most senior nurse and whoever is supposed to supervise, and we return after showing them how to fill it, we realized that there were excuses for not filling the forms, and then sometimes we hear stuff like maybe there's no paper or they're not sure where they put it. So what I basically did was just to convert to simplify it, to simplify the what do you call it now, the checklist, and convert it to a Google form that allows them fill it from their phones, and immediately they fill and they submit. I get it on the back end. The IPC team also gets it on the back end. There are also fresh challenges that have resulted from that conversion. So we're still looking for ways to improve. So that's basically it's basically a Google form, and like Dr. Osuagwu mentioned, you can also use Kobo Collect to gather that information. I want to make a quick contribution to Dr. Kachi's question about the training. Another lesson that we learned in terms of the curriculum from the pilot, you'll notice that when we presented the pilot, we used a larger hall, and then we did training in 2 batches. So an average of about 50 people in each batch. When we during the sustainability phase, that was most of this year, we changed the strategy, and then we started doing the trainings instead of taking them to a hall like we did this sustainability or retraining within the neonatal wards, and so in smaller groups. So we had groups of maximum of about 16 or 17 people. That way everybody has to participate. When we did the trainings in large groups also, we brought incubators in, we brought baby cot in. We showed them how to. It was as practical could possibly be. But we also realized that about a month after, I remember personally doing one of the direct performance observation, and I was wondering if this person had attended the training that we're done. But we understand that behavior change takes time. And so in this next cycle, we did it in smaller groups, 15, 16 people within the neonatal wards. And then basically the same curriculum, but they have a smaller, so a more closely knit group. And then it's less likely that anyone can hide. Every single person has to do the exercise, whether it's to show how hand hygiene is done, or to clean the space, to disinfect, participate in dilution, and all of those things. So the trainings, were very practical and hands-on, and it was difficult for anyone to hide. And so those are some of the lessons learned between the pilot and the sustainability phase. Thank you, Anova.
Thank you, Dr. Dami, for enriching the experience. Dr. Showande is saying hi to all of us. And there's a question here from Ugochukwu. How do we achieve stability among cleaning staff, considering how important clean hospitals is in preventing HAIs? Because with the level of turnover among the cleaning staff employed by the cleaning companies, it will be very challenging to achieve and maintain clean hospitals. So in summary, how are we dealing with JAPA amongst cleaning staff? Sustain the trainings and all that has been done. Which of you is going to take that?
I would like to make a quick comment about that. That's one of the major challenges. Together, if you ask me, the biggest challenges to cleaning best practices in Nigeria using the LUTH experience, I would speak first about cleaning supplies, which is still a challenge. And then this issue of high turnover of cleaning staff, especially with excellent cleaning companies. I think that's where things like a legal framework comes in. I know that one of the things going on right now at Lagos State level is for there to be some form of regulatory body for external cleaning companies within the healthcare setting. And we're trying to see what we can do to ensure that it's a policy. You can't just, keep, changing. And it's not even just about changing, it's about ensuring that there are standards. If a new cleaning staff is going to come into a space, they have to be trained before anything is done. It has to be by law, we quote. So I feel questions around legal framework for IPC will resolve. So apologies for there's ambient noise where I am. I hope you can still hear me. No,
Yes, we can.
things around the legal framework, it would actually solve that problem. There has to be some form of policy that ensures that cleaning companies, you can't just bring any cleaner, anyone just randomly to come and clean a healthcare facility. There has to be standards, and then if there's some form of what do you call it, reward system within those companies that ensures that people that do good work or people that have been within the space for a while, you get some form of reward, or maybe there was some progress to be made. I think that will also solve that. That's about it for me. You can over.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Dami, for that. I also remember Dr. Tochi Okwo, who is the IPC leader at the NCDC, talking about the country working on developing a legal framework with regards to IPC. So I think that would also go a long way. Please permit me to ask you all to please remember to post and fill the feedback on the session so that we can improve our session. So help us to serve you better. Then Kemi would like to know, is there a site where we can get access to the toolkit? Who is taking that? Is it Dr. Dami or Dr. Chioma?
Please repeat the question.
Is there a site where we can get access to the toolkit?
Yes. Dami will post it.
Okay. So there's a site where that will be made available to us. Please remember to fill the post-session feedback forms so that we can serve you better. Okay, Kemi is also asking, can a copy of the cleaning protocol be shared? Excuse me. So other projects can adapt or adopt.
Dr. June, can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you clearly.
Okay, I lost you for a bit. I think I heard you wanted me to put something.
Okay, Kemi is also asking if a copy of the cleaning protocol can be shared so that other projects or other facilities can adapt or adopt it.
Oh, yes. So, yes, like I said in the presentation now, the toolkit is available online. Maybe what I'll do is I'll share with Mr. Lake on the link to the CDC website. It's available. Anybody can make use of it. It's an open document, so that's available. There's something you said before the question about posting something. I think Dr. Osuagwu said I will post, but I didn't get that. I'm sorry.
No, she was saying that you can post the link to the toolkit, but you've already said that you share with Mr. Lekon so he can share. So it's the same thing.
Alternatively, we can upload it to our NSIC website.
Okay, so you have to visit the NSIC website, then you can get to see the toolkits and other materials. And also we like to appeal with our pioneers on the environmental cleaning toolkit. I think we have a plan to organize sessions on how to utilize and implement the cleaning toolkit, because you can see it's a lot of work has actually gone into it, and experience, they say, is the best teacher. So you will be very good students and future teachers if you can learn from experienced, those who have birthed the baby and brought it to birth and made it and watched it grow. So I think we're going to plan for some further sessions on the platform so that other people, other facilities can key into this. Because I know from experience that sometimes just going through a document doesn't make it as implementable as it seems. We can see the kind of work and brainstorming that has gone into this work. So I would like to ask Dr. Shewande if she has something to say before we wrap up today's sessions. Is she still with us? Let me even check. I just assumed. No, I think she's off. So before we round up, any final words for us from our wonderful erudite speakers of today, Dr. Chioma and Dr. Dami? Both of you are muted. So let me say ladies first. Dr. Chioma.
After the gentlemen.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, organizers of this ECHO program, for giving us opportunity to share our experience. Even though we are not yet perfect, and I don't think we'll be perfect, the toolkit is, and the best practices is designed for continuous improvement. So one step at a time. So you complete a cycle, you take another priority, or you assess and the priority you took is not well established yet, you recycle it and you continue improving until you become perfect. So I hope we'll be able to start, no matter how small, to implement our cleaning program.
It looks like Dr. Chioma's network has kicked her out. But she said they are not there yet, but they are improving daily. It's a continuous improvement process. Dr. Dami?
Thank you very much, Dr. John. Thank you, Dr. Shewande and the entire NSIC team for the opportunity to share the toolkit experience from LUTH. My final words are, just it's a general IPC comment. There are so many obstacles, so many within LMICs, which are resource limited settings, that you have to remind yourself about your why, and you have to have a passion to overcome these obstacles. But those obstacles can be overcome, all right? Just like, in implementing the toolkit, there's so many things that stood in the way. I'll just cite an example. Remember, Dr. Osuagwu mentioned how we train all the cleaning staff, not just in the priority ward, but also in pediatrics related patient care areas, because we had envisaged that they could be rotated. But even after we did that, we didn't expect what came after, which was literally a complete change. And then you had a different set of people coming in from all those that we have trained, or most of those we have trained. So we just have to keep going. You have to keep, adapting, keep making adjustments, and eventually, the wins begin to add up, and then we'll begin to see the difference. Thank you once again for the opportunity.
I don't know why people are thanking you. It is those of us here that are saying thank you. As they say in Yoruba, how do they say it? Eshe gone. So we say a very huge thank you to our presenters for today. And we can see that this session is not enough to exhaust what work went into developing this toolkit and what work is required to implement it at our own facilities. So we'll work towards having more sessions. We'll find a way around how best to take everybody through the toolkit and how to best implement it at our various facilities. So keep looking up to NSIC for that. We'll try and provide more platforms for this engagement. I had initially asked Dr. Shewande, but I can see she's back. Ma, would you like to say something before we log off? So it looks like she's still not with us. So I'd like to thank all those who made out time to join. It's one thing organizing a presentation or a session, it's another thing to have people join and then even stay to the very end. So thank you for being a wonderful audience, and we look forward to another session. So we look forward to seeing you same time next month, last Thursday of the month. So please remember to fill the feedback before you go? And thank you once again.
Thank
Of
you.
course.